What is up, everybody? I think we are live because it says we are live. I am so incredibly excited. I don't know what I'm doing, which is the story of my life. That's how I started writing about the Packers. That's how I started podcasting about the Packers. That has been the epithesis of everything I've ever done. But I'm incredibly excited to talk Packers during happy hour with a cherry wheat from Hinterland, with my very, very good friends, some of the absolute best people in the world. Perri Goldstein, Dusty Evely, and Maggie Loney. Let me do a couple intros first. We've got Perri Goldstein from, of course, Pack's What She Said, Pack-A-Day podcast. You can follow her on Twitter at Perri_Goldstein. We've got Maggie Loney, of course, also with Pack's What She Said and Pack-A-Day podcast. You can follow her on Twitter at Maggie J. Loney. And then Dusty Evely, you can follow him on Twitter at Dusty Evely. Fun fact about Dusty, you can find him literally on every website. She Said TV, Packer Report, Pack-A-Day, Cars.com, Booking.yeah. Dusty, the piece that you did about Sherman Lewis's offense that aired on Cars.com was just one of the absolute best things I've ever seen in my life. I'm joking, of course, but thank you, all of you, for being here for the very first Pack-A-Day happy hour. I couldn't be more thrilled to be joined by better guests. So welcome and thank you.
This is our crew from the Lions game last year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It is.
The four of us have watched a game live together.
An actual game. Your first regular season game at Lambeau, right, Perri?
It was, yes.
Yeah.
And you
It was a
wasted
good one.
it on us.
Yeah, it rained. We got crazy.
We beat the Lions.
We beat the Lions.
That was my experience. Sitting next to Perri for a game, which was it was, you warned me ahead of time too, man. You were like, I get a little intense, and you did, and it was amazing. I loved it. I got a glimpse into what happens on Sundays, which was awesome.
Yeah. I'm glad I warned you. I don't know if you truly believed me until it happened, but
It's like, oh yeah, no, she likes football. Yeah, no, I get this. I'm like, oh, kill him. I'm like, oh, it's got weird in a hurry. Loved it. I loved it.
The drinking ahead of time may have had something to do with it, but it was amazing. We've got a ton to discuss, a lot to go over. We had news already on Friday, but before we get there, we talked a little bit about Pack's What She Said already. Perri, Maggie, I want to give you two both an opportunity to discuss your awesome, amazing news and your announcement first, and then we will jump right away into a ton of Packers conversation.
oh my gosh.
Go ahead, Perri. You do it.
Okay. Yeah, so this week we officially, Pack's What She Said, joined Odyssey podcast network. So we are part of the Odyssey podcast network now.
That's it. That's the thing.
That's you can find us where you used to find us. Not much is really going to change. We're going to have some shorter episodes, clips, some like video stuff coming later in the season. You can find us now on the Odyssey app, which is really exciting. You can still listen to us on the Cheesehead TV website if that's how you usually listen to us. Not a lot is changing, just a new intro. That's what my dad was excited about. He texted me. He was like,
cool.
new intro. And I'm like, yeah, that's all that's new. So yeah, and 3 episodes a week this season. So lots more content.
That's awesome.
Super excited for you guys. That is amazing news. More Pack's What She Said is better for everyone. A lot of announcements in the Packers sphere lately. Obviously, we're going to be doing happy hour. Or I'm going to be doing happy hour every Friday. You guys are welcome to join whenever the heck you want. But we'll be doing that every Friday at 4:30. I'm doing Pack-A-Day Live, 7 p.m. every Tuesday. My first guest on that will be Aaron Nagler and Ben Fennell. So that show should be completely off the hook, which I can't wait for. So yeah, super excited about everything. Mike Wall will be joining here on YouTube on Fridays again. So lots of really amazing stuff going on. I think I'm doing this right. John Benson, immediately with the shout out. Appreciate you, John. But it was a Jaire question, so I had to pose it right away because I know Perri's going to want to talk about Jaire right away. So I'm going to let you answer this one, Perri. Odds Jaire will keep Jefferson under 50 yards this week.
Do I get to answer this with it depends?
No,
That's cheating.
This is a happy hour.
Depends on how the Packers play it, right? Like if they're gonna, keep Jaire to one side of the field, I'm sure the Vikings are gonna move Jefferson around to try to get him away from Jaire, which would be the smart thing to do. But if he shadows him all game, 50 yards, 75 yards sounds around where I'd expect Ja to keep him.
So let's talk about that for a second, because I think that's an interesting topic. And Dusty, I'll start with you here. How would you go about matching up Jaire Alexander with Justin Jefferson, and what do you kind of expect to happen?
I think the matching up is tough, but with a 3, I think you could do it a little bit. I mean, it changes the structure of your defense if you start kind of like, I'm going to follow this man with this man. So I don't know that I necessarily want them to do that, but I feel like you could, just because you've got that. Last year, I don't think you could have, but I think with Jaire and then Rasul, who's taken a lot of slot snaps in practice and stuff, and with the way the league is going with that kind of big slot defender, like that makes sense. And then Stokes is the outside guy. I think you can mix and match Rasul and Jaire inside outside if you want to. Now, what I will say, and I assume it's going to be roughly the same as is in Green Bay. We talk about slot, like if you're looking at those condensed formations, like slot is not traditional slot, right? So it's this kind of, you get kind of Justin Jefferson. If he is indeed going to do some of the Cooper Kupp stuff, you may have Justin Jefferson underneath a tackle to start to look at some of that run blocking look. And so that it gets tough to kind of then shadow him at that point, because you're not sticking Jaire right over there, because then Jaire is essentially a linebacker at that point. So if I was the Vikings, I'm going to take this from the other angle. From the Vikings, I'm moving Justin Jefferson around. I'm getting him close to the line. I'm setting him back behind that tackle, kind of getting him into those looks that we've seen Lazard do in Green Bay a ton, because you can't get a read on him that way. You can't really just match a guy one-on-one, and the defense kind of has to structure around that, kind of their base structure there. So again, if I'm the Vikings, that's what I'm doing. And I think once he kind of gets out of there a little bit, kind of is traditional slot, is traditional outside, that 1-2 receiver, I wouldn't mind seeing Jaire shadow. I don't think you can do that all game. And I think the Vikings are going to make it really hard to get a beat on them.
Maggie, did you have a thought on it?
I actually used this as one of my X factors for the Pack a Day podcast episode that dropped today, but it was whoever is playing in that slot role, which, we're assuming is going to be Rasul Douglas. But just the idea, kind of like Dusty and Perri already said, not to reiterate it too much, but the Vikings have 3 really good wide receivers. KJ Osborne even is going to get some opportunities. We don't know what they'll do with Jalen Reagor. He's fast, how he'll incorporate into that Vikings offense. But I'm really excited isn't the right word because it's the Vikings, but seeing how this Kevin O'Connell offense translates from the Rams with the weapons that they had to Minnesota, and what the Packers do defensively. Because right now we think that the X factor in the slot is Rasul Douglas, but like everybody has already said, every single CB that we have in the starting rotation can play there. So I'm curious to see what Joe Barry does and who he kind of matches up, if, like we said, guys are shadowed, or if people are going to just kind of man one side of the field all game.
If I had to guess, and what I would probably do is, I think I would keep Rasul in the slot on early downs, maybe when it's not obvious passing. I just don't think you mess up, sort of what you've kind of been planning all along. But when you get to obvious passing downs, 3rd and long, or if hopefully Green Bay's up by a couple touchdowns in the 4th quarter and Kirk Cousins is passing, I'm traveling Jaire with Justin Jefferson wherever the heck he goes. I don't think playing Jaire a ton in the slot on early downs where Dalvin Cook can get, out in the open, or when you've got potentially tight ends, fullbacks, etc., offensive tackles coming in, jamming Jaire. I just don't think that's a great idea long-term for Jaire Alexander. But obvious passing downs, I want Jaire on Justin Jefferson as much as humanly possible. Jefferson had a phenomenal game against Green Bay a season ago in Minnesota, and I just want to make sure that doesn't happen again. And the best way to do that is by putting the best cover corner, proven again last night by Jalen Ramsey, the best cover corner in football in Jaire Alexander on Justin Jefferson. I'm assuming you agree with my hot take there, Perri.
Yep. Very hot. Smoking take.
Smoking take, especially after last night. Thank you, Packers Total Access. Love this crew. Thanks to all 4 of you for helping fill the void this offseason. Appreciate you guys as well for always watching and listening. There is never a lack of thirst for Packers content, and that's what makes this so fun, is because we can talk about Packers literally 365 every single day, and nobody's thirst is ever quenched, which is what makes Packer fans so amazing. All right, I'm going to try to get to all of these chats. There's so many coming in. Thank you so much for everyone, by the way. I want to talk about the injury report today, because that was sort of the big news. And we first found out that David Bakhtiari did not practice, which of course sent, I think, shudders down everyone's spine of, all right, what does that exactly mean? Alan Lazard did not practice. And then we find out that Bakhtiari and Jenkins are officially questionable. Alan Lazard is officially doubtful. I'll let any of you take this, whoever wants to take it. Your thoughts on the initial or the final injury report? Yes, we've got another guest.
Liv, you want to say hi? No, she does not want to say hi. I
If
apologize.
she has any hot Packer takes, we're ready for them at any moment. So
okay, all right. She watches them with me, so I'm sure she's going to have some takes at some point.
love it. But any thoughts on the injury report after we get our first official injury report?
I have a question. First of all, Lazard was stepped on? Like, do we have any additional info? Like, I'm just baffled by this sudden injury, I think is like where my head's at.
Was it one of the wide receivers? Did they want his spot? Were they upset he was wide receiver number
Like,
one?
you know
Is
how
there drama?
sometimes Rodgers gets stepped on by his offensive lineman? Like, that's what I was picturing, but it had to have been worse. Like, if he's not going to play week 1, like, how bad was he?
And maybe not week 2.
bizarre.
I don't know if anybody saw the Schneidman tweet. You know, we don't know how long it's going to look, so it had to have been a relatively severe step on. Like,
yeah, because if this is like a severe injury that happened outside of the football facility and has nothing to do with football activities, I'd be like kind of pissed off.
Yeah, not ideal either way you look at it. And yeah, listen, Matt LaFleur does such an amazing, tremendous job keeping guys healthy that I'm sure this was a fluke thing, and it just is what it is. And this is the cost of doing business and having practices, but definitely a little bit weird that he gets an ankle injury off of being stepped on at a practice.
Yeah, because this is your likely wide receiver 1, if we want to use that term here.
Yep.
And already, like, I shouldn't say, unclear offense that we're going to see. And so you lose, a guy that what you get out of Lazard. You kind of know what to expect from him, and Rodgers knows what to expect from him, and he trusts him. And he said he basically has like 3 guys that he feels comfortable out there. It's Cobb, Sammy Watkins, and Lazard. So you lose one of those. And I mean, the Packers have plenty of players, I guess, to fill the void. We had good news, which you didn't even mention, which is that Tunyon's going to play week 1, which coming off an ACL is amazing.
Yep.
But definitely. I mean, I guess we see like more pony package, great, more 2 tight end sets if Tunyon can play with Lewis out there. So it'll look like the Matt LaFleur offense. I guess I'm just more confused by the injury.
I think that's fair. So let's look at this in total. And you bring up a great point. Tunyon is back. Mason Crosby's good to go. So I think there was definitely some good news that came out of this as well. But if you guys were to guess, Bakhtiari, Lazard, Elton Jenkins, who plays, who sits? Maggie, I'll start with you.
Well, so Perri and I talked about this on Packs, what she said early in the week. And this was before it came out that Elton also had a pectoral. It was just a knee at that point. So the pec is a kind of new thing that I'm wondering how that happened or what was going on with that. But we both at that point, I think it was Wednesday.
On his pec too.
Somebody's
going around stepping on everyone's. Somebody's got to stop.
But at that point, we had said that it seemed trending that Bakhtiari would be the guy that gets the start. Perri was more pessimistic than me, which is rare. But she said that neither of them would start. And I said if I had to pick one that would start, I would say Bach. And now I don't feel good about either of them starting. Right. So, yeah.
Not that I'm happy to be right.
Yeah, and now it's tough because I was just going to say, like, this is not the atmosphere that you want your offense, who has not had any preseason reps, which I don't think that they need, but you're going into a really hostile environment. Week 1, you've got, Z and whatever else is going on, Daniil Hunter. If you have 2 novice-ish, don't have that much experience tackles, it's loud. If there's any not great field position to start, it just feels like the odds are stacking up against your offense very early.
Totally agreed. I think it's a totally different ballgame depending on who they have of those 3 available. Dusty, what do you think?
I'm currently of the mind that I'm going to be thrilled if they play. So I am currently, I'm living on expecting the worst, hoping for the best. So that, I mean, with Bakhtiari, it was like, well, maybe he'll be ready by week 1 last year. Like, we're so far off from these things, or not week 1, but by the playoffs at the very least. I'm so far off from this stuff that, especially with Bakhtiari, I'm not going to believe that he's out there until he's out there. And then even then, he was in the Lions game, and then he was not ready. So I'm being very, very cautious with all of this stuff. Like, until we see these guys are practicing on a regular basis, it looks like they're ready to go. Like, we've actually heard this. We've heard like they're good to go. They're playing. I'm currently operating. And if you would have asked me yesterday, I would have said it's Bakhtiari and Elton. Like, they're going. Right now, I feel like it's not, and then I will be pleasantly surprised if they are. Is kind of where I'm sitting. I don't want to get my hopes up.
Andy, I feel like we talked about this when we recorded last. Yeah. We were saying, like, for me to feel confident that either of them, the 2 tackles, are going to play, I have to see them stack consecutive practices doing team reps, like full participation in practice. And so when you see Bakhtiari not practicing one day, not listed as vet rest, like, that to me is like, okay, he's probably they're not going to throw him out there. This is a really long season, and the season just got longer too with the extra game. The Packers fully expect to go deep into the playoffs. Like, this is week 1 is not the time to push your players out onto the field, especially like Maggie said at US Bank on that field. Like, that is just not what you want to do. So it's not great. And I don't know, like, I don't know, Dusty said, like, I have no idea what the time frame is for Bach, but I'd prefer them not force him out there if he can't even make it through a full week of practice.
Yeah, so I know, obviously Bakhtiari, Jenkins questionable, Lazard is doubtful. I'm kind of the mind right now, and this could change at any given moment, but I'm kind of the mind right now that they kind of just told us with Friday's practice who is going to play. Like, to me, you don't not practice Lazard and especially Bakhtiari on Friday and then play them on Sunday. If it's that close, you just wait an extra week and let them have that week off. Jenkins is a little bit more interesting, where I feel like he has stacked those practices now. He did practice on Friday. I almost feel like if he wasn't going to play, don't you do the same thing you do with Bakhtiari and say, hey, let's give you an extra day off, rest your body a little bit, and then we'll get you back in the swing of things next week, and then make sure that the other players get those reps in practice. So I almost feel like they told us, like, Jenkins will play, Bakhtiari and Lazard will not. And that's kind of how I'm going into this. But I will say I feel more confident that Bakhtiari won't play than I am in Jenkins that he will play. I still think there's a world where they just say, you know what, he's coming off an ACL. This is a fake turf in Minnesota, the same turf he tore that ACL on a season ago. Like, let's just wait one more week until it's Chicago in Green Bay on Lambeau Field and just give those guys a little bit extra time. So I'm going to go that Jenkins plays and Bakhtiari and Lazard do not, but nothing would shock me at this point.
So what then, in your opinion, is either the best offensive line? Okay, yeah, let's do best offensive line and the offensive line that they actually roll out.
I think best is Bakhtiari, John Runyon Jr., Josh Myers. I'm gonna actually say Jake Hansen, Zach Tom. That's what I would say would be the best. Wait. So if I said if Jenkins is in.
Okay, let's say without Bakhtiari and Jenkins, who do you think they should? What should the lineup be, and what will it be?
So both are out. We're saying.
Yeah, let's say both are out.
Sorry, I'm gonna do that one more time. Yash, Runyon, Myers, and then I would do Hansen and Tom. I think they will do Hansen and Myers.
You mean Newman?
Hansen and Newman?
Thank you. I don't know what I'm doing. Yes, I have a half of a cherry wheat and I can't talk anymore. So yes. Hansen and Newman is what I think they will do. Hansen and Tom is what I would do.
Okay.
I think, Maggie and I say this. Tom should be out there. Tom is part of your best 5. But a rookie week 1, I don't know. Actually, I take that back. They do that all the time on the offensive line. Looking at Josh Myers last year as a perfect example. So we'll see. They've done crazier things. I did see an interesting comment today. I think it was from Matt LaFleur about how, like, they feel comfortable putting Yash at right tackle, but they prefer to keep him at left. So I hope they don't trot out anything like wild and crazy like they did against the 49ers.
I was thinking about that. Like, if Elton Jenkins plays, he's arguably your best left tackle. But if you're more comfortable with Yash as a left tackle, then you probably want your 2 best tackles in that moment. So you maybe keep Yash at left tackle and let Elton Jenkins just lock down the right side. And then the interior doesn't matter as much. So the Yash comments were interesting with them saying, like, yeah, we think he can play right tackle, because that made me start thinking, like, if Jenkins is playing, do they move him to be your premier left tackle? Either way, it's Hunter and Z on the edges. So it's not like it's going to get any easier on either side.
I don't think they're moving. Yeah, I think Matt's lying. Frankly, I don't think they're putting Yash at right tackle. I know they put him there.
I agree.
I don't see any way where they're putting Yash on the right side. But it is weird that, like, it seems clear to almost everyone that, like, Zach Tom is one of their best 5, right? And, like, they're so adamant of, we got to get best 5 guys out there. And maybe it's all starter fusion. Maybe Zach Tom lines up week 1 as a starter, and we're like, we should have been like, well, we should have seen that coming or whatever. But it just feels like Zach Tom should be out there. I totally agree with you.
Well, not even like I know preseason and blah, 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 but like the thing that Newman had such an issue with, and he got a little better season 1. I was like picking up those twists and stunts, those pass offs all year. He struggled with. Zach Tom was crushing those in the I think he missed like 1. They didn't throw a whole lot at him, but it was like flawless pickup. flawless pickup. Like if they're running those games out there, and with Z, they're absolutely going to run those games out there. They're going to crash someone. Z's going to come looping around. I'd rather have Tom. I don't care if that's guard or tackle. I'd rather have Tom out there than Newman. Just handling that stuff.
Totally agreed.
Yeah,
totally agreed. All right, let's talk about the lack of Alan Lazard potentially. And we did get this from Brandon. If no Alan Lazard, over under on Watson 5 targets plus Jets. Oh, jet motions. Gotcha. I'm like, Jets. And then over under on Dobbs 6 targets. So I will let anyone who wants to tackle this. But overall, I think Dobbs is going to be very involved in this game.
Is he healthy? Is Watson going? I hadn't heard much about Watson. He's good to go. Okay, awesome. Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, overs on all those. I think. I mean, he says jets, not just motions. I think we're gonna get a lot of Amari Rodgers on the jet motion. Some Christian Watson, but I think targets plus jets. Yeah, I'm taking the over on all on. I don't know about Dobbs. I guess I'm not sure. I like Dobbs, but I don't know that I'm gonna do the over on him. But for Watson, yeah, absolutely. And again, I do think Amari Rodgers is going to see more than people think, and that's just because I love Amari Rodgers and I want to talk about Amari Rodgers. But with that 2-back set, I think they're going to use him. I think that a lot of that jet stuff's going to be him. But I think I said this from the jump. Like, I think if Christian Watson's out there, it doesn't matter if it's deep. It doesn't matter. Like they're gonna manufacture 3-4 touches for him a game, and then if he gets open outside of that, that's awesome. But some of those bubbles that he could take to the house, if he gets blocking on some of those RPO bubbles, those are going to Watson. Like they're going to give him chances with the ball quickly in his hands, like 3 or 4 times a game if he's healthy. So, I mean, you're hitting 3 or 4 before he even gets open downfield at that point, in my mind. So, yeah, I'm taking the over.
See, I think
else can listen to Dusty talk about the offense forever and ever.
Yes, it is. It is one of my favorite pastimes, actually.
I'm sorry for you. Pick better pastimes, Maggie.
Pastimes. I see what you did there.
Can we mute him? Can we mute Andy, or is it just because he?
We're kicking Andy out of his own show.
It's about time. I just put Josh Myers at right tackle, so I definitely.
So it is off the rails. But to me, I guess like I'm most curious to see who gets the look, right? If they open in 11, which, we know Matt LaFleur obviously plays a lot of 12, a lot of 21, but if it's 11 and Allen isn't out there, who gets the nod? Like, Dobbs had, I guess, more of a training camp with Rodgers because Watson was rehabbing, but then Watson's got the pedigree and he's got the draft pick, like the draft status at that point. So I feel like, I think Watson and Dobbs both get over for these target predictions, but I think it's a really big Sammy Watkins game. I have felt like that all week. I feel like it's going to be like the game where everyone's like, oh, look, Rodgers finally has a first round wide receiver, and look what happens when he plays with him. And it's as much as we want to say it's Cobb because of the my mind just went blank. The chemistry that they have with him being in the scheme for so long with Rodgers and being one of his security blankets. I think it's going to be a big week for Sammy Watkins, and we might kind of forget about the rookie wide receivers at this point because Tunyon will be back, Watkins, Cobb.
Yeah. Well, you'll have Cobb in the slot. Watkins
exactly. Yeah.
And yeah, I think it makes sense why the vets would get the nod to start the game at least, but it's a long game, and Matt LaFleur is going to want to rotate in Watson and Dobbs, and Rodgers has said like his expectations, especially for Romeo, are a little bit higher than the rest of the younger guys just because of what he was able to do this preseason and training camp. So I'm definitely, I think, taking the over on that just simply from his comments, and I think he'd actually get him the ball. I have no idea what to expect from Christian Watson. We haven't seen him play yet, right? Mm-hmm. So the under wouldn't surprise me. The over wouldn't surprise me. Like whatever he does, I think is, I don't know, maybe just like set a baseline for him for the rest of the season. If he doesn't play at all, maybe that would be the only thing that doesn't surprise me, or does surprise me rather. But I'm going Dobbs over Watson simply based on 12's trust.
I'm kind of there too, Perry. And I think this is one of the more interesting things to look at. And it's weird with Lazard. I'm not excited that Lazard is out clearly, and they're worse without Lazard, but I'm also kind of just excited to see probably more of Watson and Dobbs almost because Lazard is out, and just to see what they can do. I feel more confident with Dobbs just because we've seen him, and it does seem like him and Rodgers were able to develop a little bit of a rapport. But how they use those two rookies in this game is of insane interest to me, because if you told me that this was sort of a rope-a-dope and like all of a sudden Watson and Dobbs were like the two main primary targets in this game, and they just look to those guys a lot because they're super talented and freak athletes, I'd be like, yeah, I could totally see why. If you told me that Rodgers looked at his two veterans and Sammy Watkins and Randall Cobb, and then add in like Robert Tonyan, Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon, and he just went to those guys like 90% of the offense, would not shock me at all either. So like, I'm really interested to see how Aaron Rodgers utilizes these players, how often each of them get in the game. Amari, another piece of that puzzle. Like, it's very intriguing to me.
You bring up such a good point because we're talking about all these wide receivers and we're completely forgetting about the fact that the Packers have two running backs who can catch the ball. Like, right, I feel like Aaron Jones could like potentially come out of this season as like wide receiver 2 or 3 in the amount that he's able to make plays with ball in his hands. So, yeah, it's interesting to think about where some of the wide receivers fall in terms of like looks from Rodgers, considering that not just wide receivers are going to be catching passes.
Well, I think like one of the things we talked about a little bit too is just, Rodgers likes to test out young CBs. And yes, he has young wide receivers, but we saw in the preseason, Dobbs specifically is able to get behind defenders. And the Vikings have 2 really young defenders, 2 draft picks, rookies in Caleb Evans and Andrew Booth Jr. So, if any of those guys are on the field and there's a mismatch there, whether it's speed or size, depending on, who's out there, I think they're going to get an opportunity just from Rodgers understanding that it's time to battle test, the young CBs, and they're going to get plenty of opportunities to do that on Sunday.
Such a good call out. Maggie, we're getting you twice.
It's not me. I'm muted.
Uh-oh. What do we do?
No, you're good. What's going on?
All right,
I can hear us talking somewhere.
We had double talking, but who doesn't want to hear us twice anyway? So, totally worth it. I did want to get to George Costanza because anytime a George Costanza message is in, we're always going to acknowledge it. So do we expect anything from Josiah in the passing game on Sunday? I feel like this is a great Dusty Evely question.
I always expect something from Josiah Deguara. I mean, the tight end room, and he's tight end, but he's, kind of that tweener guy. Like their tight end room, and I guess Tunyan's playing. It's such a question mark coming into the year. We don't know. Deguara is the guy that third year, waiting for that third year leap. And I mean, everyone talks about this. I will also talk about this. Tight end is one of the toughest positions from college to the pros transition into, and especially for this tweener guy like this. You're not only a receiver, you're learning the offense, you're learning the line checks, and you're learning fullback, running back roles, stuff like that. There's so much that you need to pick up. And he missed that first year, but that third year is usually when you start seeing tight ends like really get it. And I don't know if he's going to, but we've seen enough glimpses from him, I think, last year. As he went on, he'll miss some blocks, but he's also like, it's not for lack of effort. Like that dude gives his all. If he grabs onto you and he's not letting go, and he'll drive you into the ground. So he's going to give you that in the run game. We've seen him separate in the pass game. He's a little undersized. That my main issue with him is none of that. My main issue is just his hands. I think he's going to get his chances. I don't think he's going to be like, they're not going to throw at him 10 times or anything like that. I think he gets, 3 to 4 targets. They use him in the run game. He does some stuff in the passing game, mostly uses as a blocker. I think he's going to get 3 or 4 chances, one up the seam or middle of the field. It's just a matter for me of, can he take advantage of those? Like, I think he'll get a few chances. I mean, that's it. Can he catch the ball? I hear that's a big thing to do, I guess, but he needs to catch the ball, man.
Apparently Aaron Rodgers really likes
when you catch it. It's weird.
Yeah, I've heard, that feels weird. I don't know. He's
a bad teammate.
So particular.
Yeah, such a bad teammate.
Asked so much of them.
Asked so much. It was just too high standards, if you ask me.
A couple of things on Deguara. One, I thought his breakout game a season ago even breakout moment was when he caught the touchdown in the back of the end zone against Minnesota, and this, in Minnesota, had kind of the scramble play from Rodgers, and then Deguara went up and caught it. And I thought that kind of propelled him for the rest of the season, and I thought he played better as the rest of that season went on. So hopefully he can carry that over, and maybe this is just a place that he likes to play and can have another big play like that this week. But one thing that I saw a lot of in practice was a lot of wheel routes where they were able to get Deguara online. And no, I'm talking Dusty's language. Dusty's love language is wheel routes, by the way. Right. But a lot of wheel routes where they were able to get Deguara on linebackers and then obviously streaking up the sideline and with separation. The issue is I don't think they ever hit on it, either because Deguara didn't totally get open enough or because Rogers didn't hit him or whatever. But it was a play that they ran quite a bit. And usually Deguara did have a step on those players and there was an opportunity there to complete on the play. So it would not shock me at all if we saw that right away where they try to get Deguara in a wheel route on a linebacker with separation down the sideline. And then the big question is just, can they actually hit it?
Lose my mind. I would lose my mind if that happens.
Mark it down now. If check on Dusty Evely if Josiah Deguara gets a wheel route for a big play this weekend.
I don't care where you are. You'll hear me screaming about it.
The craziest thing is Josiah Deguara had one of the biggest plays of the season from Jordan Love against the Lions of all things that happened last year. In that crazy, I don't know, even was it a tight end screen?
Yeah, little tight end tunnel screen.
Like nobody saw that coming in a million years. So yeah, you never know with Josiah Deguara. Thank you, Jonathan Hale. Bookending my day with the Pack-A-Day podcast. Thanks for all you do. Appreciate that, Jonathan. That is amazing. All right. One other thing I have a lot of things I want to get to, but I wanted to go over next was the announcement of the captains. So Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, Mercedes Lewis on offense, Kenny Clark, Devondre Campbell, Adrian Amos on defense. I believe Jones and Campbell were the two new ones this season, but I wanted to get your thoughts on the captains. Obviously amazing that Aaron Jones gets the nod. How well-deserved is that? But anybody that stands out to you that didn't get the nod, whether that's Mason Crosby, David Bakhtiari, Preston Smith, Rashawn Gary, Jaire Alexander, certainly some bigger names that were not on the captain's list. So we know that didn't sit well with a certain current Minnesota Viking a season ago. So A, thoughts on captains, and B, thoughts on maybe any quote unquote snubs for #snubs from the captain's list. Anyone? Is it okay that I don't really care about this? I love that take, actually.
I just look, I think what says more is that 21 players got votes, right? So from a locker room standpoint, from a player-led team perspective that I know Matt LaFleur has wanted, having 21 guys get a vote to be a captain clearly means that something's going right. They just had to pick 6, right? They chose 6 with the most. It happened to be these 6. You could have swapped out any of those guys and we would be saying, but no Aaron Jones, but no Smash, but no, so I just think at the end of the day, it is what it is. But the fact that there are so many men on this team who we could view as captains is more of the point.
Yeah, I that's kind of how I felt too. Just, the idea that pretty much everywhere in your depth chart, you have what could be a captain, right? Like Preston Smith, you could argue should have gotten a nod. If it wasn't going to be, Kenny Clark along the defensive line, you could make the case that Dean Lowry deserves a captain's vote for the way that he played. You could give it to Jaire. You could give it to, Rasul Douglas would have been a really fun story after the season that he had to come in. Anyone, Elton Jenkins. And I think part of it is the availability. And I think Matt LaFleur kind of said that when you're talking about guys that weren't necessarily available, not for a lack of not wanting to be, of course, but just unable to take these reps every practice, or if they're out rehabbing, they're not as visible as in that leadership role that maybe, the players recognize when they're making the vote. So I liked all of them. I thought it was a really awesome honor for Devondre Campbell. But I absolutely see the case for Cobb. There were a ton of guys that probably you could make the case. You could swap out maybe anybody but Aaron Rodgers, I guess, and it would have been the same. It would have had the same impact, I think, for the rest of the team.
I don't know why you need to be named a captain when you can just go out and get your own jewelry made, even though you're not one. I mean, what's the point,
We should all get captain's chains.
We really should. We should get Pack-A-Day captain's chains. Can we vote on who the Pack-A-Day captains would be?
We will vote on Pack-A-Day captains, and then anyone who doesn't get voted will have to go out and buy their own chain. I will buy the chains for the people who are voted to captains. Everyone else is required to buy their own.
I can't wait to get mad about being a slight, man. I just can't wait to get furious about not getting.
If you don't wake up in the morning slighted that you're not a captain of something, that's why I tagged Captain Maddie here. He's a captain, and he thought Perri had an excellent pick. So appreciate you, Captain Maddie.
He probably has his own jewelry made too, so it's great.
Probably does. CM, it's Captain Maddie. I don't know where we sort of go from here, but like Za'Darius Smith, I want to talk a little bit about Z because I'm sorry, Maggie. I know this is probably a little bit of a sensitive subject, but let's talk about Z's revenge and whether or not, you think there's anything to him saying that the Packers treated him poorly and just, I'm sure he's going to be super motivated in this game. And if you think he's going to cause chaos for the Packers offense.
I mean, me personally, I would have felt better, obviously, if we knew that the tackle situation was resolved itself the way that we kind of expected it to going into week 1. But I think he's one of the factors. But I also think that was going to happen regardless of wherever he ended up playing. If it wasn't the Vikings, I know the Packers don't play the Ravens this year, but it would have happened wherever he ended up after having that slighted feeling. But to me, he's just one of the factors. I already talked about it earlier in the show, but I'm more concerned about like starting field position with special teams. If this is an offense that has to drive 90 yards down the field, then yeah, guys like Z are going to get to tee off. But if AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones are having, successful games and the quick passing is working, then I could also see Z getting very frustrated by the fact that he's not having the kind of impact that he wants to have. So to me, it's going to come down to the trenches and, whether you call it ego, whether you call it attitude, his skill set, yes, makes him a very dangerous edge rusher. But I think this is also the kind of game where he could get in his head. So whether it's, the good kind of get in your head or the bad kind of get in your head, depending on how it's going. So it'll be up to the Packers, I think, to manage all of the outside factors. And Z's just one of those outside factors.
I think anytime. Oh, God. I was going to say, I think anytime you play out of spite, it doesn't end up working out well. I just don't know if that's like the best motivator. And I feel for him. Like his emotions are obviously valid. He feels the way he feels about the Packers. And so he chose to go play against their rival because he's that angry. Like, I'm sorry that happened. I wish it hadn't, but also we don't know what kind of player he's going to be. He missed an entire season. Like, that's not to be, I think, discounted. Is he going to come back and be, his 2019, 2020 self? Possibility. Yes. If he's, trained and strong and back to the player he was, yeah, he can be a wrecking ball. But yeah, I mean, missing an entire season it always affects players when they come back, especially the first game. So he may be like 80% of himself, which is still someone who can cause major disruptions. It's just kind of wait and see. We'll see.
Yeah, and I think that the spite, playing with spite as being a dangerous thing is a really good point. It's a matter of, I guess, I don't know how you channel it. Like, everyone's got some amount of like, this person wronged me, this thing wrong. We hear about, these are the guys that were drafted in front of me, and that's what drives me. It's a matter of like, how much does that drive actual performance? And with Z, like, I don't know for some of that, how much of that is performative versus how much of that is actually like in his head every given play. Like, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to do this because they harmed me. Like, if that's the thing, you could see it going over the line. I feel like it's more performative than anything. Like, everyone needs to be motivated by something. And if that's what drives you, man, that's fine. But if it causes him to like a late hit, or he gets mad and starts, shoving a little more or something, I think he's a guy though too. He plays with such an aggression. Like, his game is violent, to where maybe that does make a difference. But I get the feeling that you get 5 snaps into a game and all of that anger and all of that emotion, eventually you're like, well, we just got to win this game now. That's roughly. No. You don't need to post that. No, we're fine. Everyone, we love everyone. But yeah, I think I certainly think it's should be interesting because he does seem very upset about things.
I think one of the things I'm most intrigued by, and I can guarantee you what Green Bay is going to do very early and often, is they're going to run right at Za'Darius Smith, because over the last couple seasons, Za'Darius Smith went big play hunting quite a bit. And he wanted to get into the backfield and he wanted to make a big play. And he didn't always stay very assignment sure. He didn't always hold up at the point of attack. He didn't always set the most aggressive edges. In 2019, he did. Dude was a freak in 2019. He did everything in 2019. I will say to this day, 2019 Z is on par with anything Reggie White or Charles Woodson has put on tape in my lifetime. That was as good of a defensive season as I've seen from anyone. 2020, he was good for one big play a game because he went big play hunting on every single play. And a lot of the other stuff was frankly garbage at times. And I remember the 49ers in the playoff game on that, third down play was like 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9. And they did the draw to the outside. I think it was to Mostert who got the touchdown. I think Savage had the awful angle on the play too, but like they knew They just knew Z was going to come crashing up the field as hard as he possibly could, not hold his assignment. And Z came crashing up. They did the trap play or the draw play to Mostert, and he takes it for a touchdown. And I guarantee you, Green Bay is going to start by being like, all right, Z's in the game. Let's see how committed he is to being a good all-around player. Is he big play hunting? I have no doubt that at the same token, Z will get a big play in this game, whether that's a sack or whatever it may be. I guarantee you he's going to do something. You're not going to probably keep him shut out for the entirety of this game. But I do think Green Bay is going to try to take advantage of some of the deficiencies that he's also put on tape, specifically in run defense. And I'm really interested to see how that kind of goes as well. And if Green Bay's offensive linemen can actually take advantage of it.
It is a good point that Green Bay does know him as a player. And so that means they know his weaknesses and what to kind of attack. But he does have a very nice co-partner out there in Danielle Hunter, who you also have to game plan for. So, there is a little bit of advantage there to Minnesota. It's going to be a really interesting battle. I think it's going to be a good battle. Like Andy said, I think Z is going to have plenty of opportunities to make plays, and the Packers will also have plenty of opportunities to kind of attack his weaknesses. I think, Maggie, we did over unders on sacks, and I think we had Vikings having at least 2.
I think so. Yeah. And I mean, I think one of the things that's also really interesting about this is the fact that Mike Smith is there now too. So we know that obviously Z was utilized for like 1.5 games for Joe Barry, never really got the full Joe Barry effect with the defense. But 2019 and 2020, those were the Mike Smith, Mike Patton years. And now they are, of course, in Minnesota with that Vikings, that defensive front. So that'll be another interesting thing too, to see if those guys have anything for him, because we saw obviously with Patton and Smith that Z got some of those like roaming nose looks over center. So I'm sure he's gonna get some looks on Sunday.
Yeah, I think those third down looks for sure. Patton loved just dialing up just random wacky stuff on third downs with Z. So I'm very curious to see how they use him on third downs.
So let me ask you guys this. We're going into week 1, Packers, Vikings, new start of a season. Just in general, what are you guys most looking forward to watching, either this game, this season, just something in general that we've had this whole off season to sort of salivate over what could be, but now that we're actually here, what are you most looking forward to?
Pony package, baby.
I was, yeah, I didn't want to. it is
Jay Dillon trucking people.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they do. I mean, this first game, I'm curious with, as far as who they call up, if they call up, Patrick Taylor or Goodson off the practice squad for the game, because it's hard to do pony package with 2 backs on the roster. So I imagine a lot of Amari, like that's been the thing, right? I mean, I've talked about this 1,000 times, but they talked about 80% of the offense runs through Davante Adams, which like true and also not true. Like it's not like the structure of the offense was structured around Davante Adams. It's more kind of how the reads and how some of the stuff plays out. So how does that stuff work? How do they kind of put the pieces in place to account for that? And I have some decent ideas of how they're going to do that. But that pony package that I think is going to be, I mean, LaFleur talked about each of them with 50 catches, something like that. And I think they came relatively close last year. I think Jones went over. Dillon was like 36, 37, if I'm not mistaken. How do they do that? Because you're somewhat limited with what you do with those guys, because you're still attacking relatively close to the line of scrimmage. So how do they do that? And especially this first week with no Lazard, where I expect them to lean into that a little heavier. How do they get to that? What looks can they get out of that? And then who do you have on the outside? Who is your ISO guy? That's my big question with that stuff. It's always been Davante, because that dude can win any given way. It's not going to be Davante. Someone's going to be ISO'd on those 3x1 sets. And I think they're just going to go, Christian Watson, you're the fastest man. You just go over there and run fast. That's how I think some of that's going to play out. But just the structure of it, if it's more like traditional reads, I'm fascinated with how it's going to go. I've spent too much time thinking about it. I'm excited to watch how it all plays out.
Really quick on that, Dusty. So I'm interested in your thoughts on this, because I think one of the things that made the pony package so successful is you've got Davante on one side, so you can't just single cover him on one side. You got to keep a safety over the top on that, which opens up everything else. And then on the other side, a lot of times you've got Allen Lazard, one of the best blocking wide receivers in all of football, where if you run that little, wider or the running back out, like Aaron Jones usually goes to the side. And then if they go with him, obviously you hand to Dillon with like a 5-man box at this point, which is completely ridiculous. If they don't, then you throw it out to Jones, and now he's got 2 blocking receivers in front of him, or a blocking receiver and a tight end, however it ends up lining up. But with no Lazard as the blocking guy, and with no Davante on the other end to maybe keep that safety deep on that side. Do you think that pony package can have the same level of success without the same personnel that they've had so much success with it?
It can, but with a caveat, right? I mean, I think it depends on, there's two different things. They have to your point, you do have to threaten them on the outside with something. It's not Devontae. You have to make them devote resources over there. You have to have something over there. So is that speed? But then you have to prove that someone out there. Week 1, that almost feels like Sammy Watkins because we've seen him do it before, but you need something out there. You can't just, the same thing with those overloaded fronts, whether it's pony or not. If you got 3 receivers to one side and Devontae's to the other side, you've got a safety shading there. If it's not Devontae, you overload the 3 side because that's the one thing is you need to be able, that guy over there needs to be able to threaten. The other thing is you got to run, man. Like you have to be able to run because you have to be able to threaten that run, which is the problem they had last year, especially towards the end. I mean, that line was good at pass protection. They were not good at running. They were not good at kind of pushing that line and running. So they need to be able to, I mean, that's legitimately it. You need to be able to legitimately run out of that, so that they have to bring that safety down. They have to devote extra guys into the box because if you can't do that, you don't gain an advantage anywhere else. So, I mean, that's the 2 main things they need to do. And I feel better with that Bakhtiari and Jenkins than I do with, even as much as I like Tom, I don't know that Tom's a road grader right now.
Agreed.
Bring up I don't know, Caleb Jones as fullback. I don't know, man. Like you got to be able to push. You need to be able to threaten that run. You need to be able to threaten the power to be able to kind of open up the edges. So it's boring. It's boring. Like, oh, they got to run the ball. Like it's boring, but also, they really are going to have to do that to make pony package work.
If you're playing along at home, every time Dusty says pony package, you're supposed to take a shot. So you should all be beyond wasted at this point.
R.I.P.
Maggie, Perri, your things that you're most looking forward to?
Defense, baby. Come on. Like, look, I think for week 1 especially, right? Like the expectations for either side of the ball are vastly different. Offense is like, let's see what we got, right? We have some idea based on what we've seen from Matt LaFleur when Devontae wasn't playing. We kind of have some sense. We've got a bunch of new chess pieces to play with, but no one really knows what LaFleur is going to put out there. We kind of know what to expect, and our expectations for the defense are a lot higher, I would say. So if they come out and don't look like, actually, I don't know if I want to say it. Actually, I'll say it. It's fine. If they don't look like a top defense that we're all expecting them to look like there's going to be a lot of questions, a lot of comments, a lot of narrative, a lot of everything. So I think there's just like a lot of expectations in this game. And the Vikings are not this isn't the Bears where they don't have any weapons. Like the Vikings have legitimate weapons to contend with. So it's definitely a test for this defense. Now, are they up to the challenge? 100%. But I just think we fully expect to see Rashawn and Preston wrecking guys. We are claiming to have, one of the best secondaries in the league. Like now we have to see you actually do it. One of those games where Roger says, we got a defense. And if they don't, like I said, there's going to be a lot of answers. I think there's going to be less having to answer for whatever the Packers do on offense.
Yeah, I think just for me, it's getting a true, genuine glimpse at what a Matt LaFleur offense it looks like, what he envisions it to look like. And, a lot of that is easier when you have a Hall of Fame quarterback and a Hall of Fame wide receiver, all pros, across the board. And the fact that, Dusty already said, talking about 80% of the offense can be designed for Devontae, and whether or not it was designed for him or not, he ate up 80% of the offense because he's Devontae freaking Adams. So now we're going to get a really authentic look at the Matt LaFleur offense that we've been thinking about and, expecting him to utilize, whether it's, the Shanahan McVay kind of offense, just what it's going to look like being authentically himself without Devontae.
I like that a lot. And for me, I'm a junkie for new players that are going to be put in, premium positions or opportunities to succeed. And I think developing a playmaker at some point this season that can stretch the field, that you can get the ball in their hands and they can just make things happen, whether that's Romeo Doubs or Christian Watson, I think is paramount to the Packers' success. I don't think they can keep grinding out these 15-play, 75-yard drives over and over, and especially when it gets to playoff time. I think you just have to have guys that can make things happen with the ball in their hands. So Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, I want to see how quickly they can get integrated, how quickly they can become playmaker, or just can they become a legitimate playmaker? Can both of them? That would be amazing. Like, so I'm so excited to see those two in regular season action with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. That's one. And then on the flip side, on defense, like I've seen Quay Walker and Devondre Campbell wreck this Packers offense and running game when they've tried to go stretch outside or pitch outside or anything outside, because there's nobody, there's a linebacker there every single time. Like they line up in the middle, but by the time your running back gets out to the edge, you've got a linebacker there waiting for you every single time. We haven't seen that. I don't think I've seen that in my lifetime, where they've had two linebackers with the speed and athleticism of Quay Walker and Devondre Campbell. And they made things a living, for the Packers offense in camp. I want to see that. And they get a great test right away with Dalvin Cook, because he is as quick and as shifty and as powerful a running back that you could face. And I'm so excited to see how Quay Walker and Devondre Campbell hopefully eat that up and just, shut him down. So I'm a junkie for that. I want to see Jarran Reed too, right? Like we've seen Brian Gutekunst find these diamonds in the rough over and over and over. Jarran Reed had a phenomenal camp. And then so it becomes, all right, we've seen Jarran Reed on tape for 5 years and he seemed pretty mediocre. But Jarran Reed at camp looked really freaking great. So is this really great Jarran Reed, or do we get the same guy we've seen on tape over the course of the last 4 or 5 years-ish of his career? So those are definitely a few things that I just can't wait to watch this upcoming game.
I can't remember who it was, if it was
Sorry, Meg,
Deguara.
I have to say goodbye to everyone.
Bye, Perri Goldstein.
So
Bye, Perri.
fun. Happy weekend, everyone. Can't wait to
Happy
talk
weekend.
about Packers football with you all soon.
Cheers, Perri.
Bye. No, I was just gonna say really quick. I can't remember if it was Deguara or if it was Aaron Jones, but I think it was against the Vikings, and there was a wheel route, and it was just Kendricks broke it up way too quickly. And after that game, we were all talking about, Eric Kendricks is one of the few linebackers in the NFL who can cover that kind of offense. And if it's against a less athletic linebacking core, that play hits like 10 out of 10 times. And now we're talking about the Packers having arguably the best inside linebacking core in the division, one of the best tandems in the NFL. And Quay Walker obviously is unproven at this point, so you can't appoint him to anything until he's actually played some snaps. But just the athleticism that we'll see from the middle of the defense, it's something, like you said, unlike we've seen in decades at the position. And if there's anybody that can handle that really well, I think it's the Joe Barry guy who, won a Super Bowl coaching inside linebackers.
Yeah, totally love that. All right, guys, before we get out of here, I got to ask you, what is your prediction for Sunday's game? Did the Packers come out with a victory? What are you expecting to see? What are you hoping to see? I'll let you take that in any direction that you want to take it. And Dusty, I'll start with you.
So on Packet this past week, we did the same thing. I can't remember what I said. So I'm going to try to hit close to what I said for that.
No, go the opposite direction. So you're right either way.
Direction. Yeah. Packers lose by 30. I think in the offseason, I was thinking about this, and we were kind of looking at the games and all of that and kind of how we think they're going to play out. And I had initially had this as a loss. Just because it's week one, there's no Devontae. I kind of figure that offense is going to be a little rocky. As excited as I am about it, I think it's going to take them a little bit to kind of figure that out. I've kind of reversed course, and now I'm also thinking of reversing course again, potentially just because of Bakhtiari and Elton and Lazard and all that. But I'm going to stick to my guns. What I said on Packet this past week, which is I'm going to go Packers 31-7. 31-17. Sorry, not
31-7. I'll take it.
And I think it's close. I think the Packers get a late touchdown, something like that, to kind of make that score look the way it does. But I think it's a relatively close game. And the reason I kind of ended up going that way was I've spent so much time. I don't know if you know, I spent so much time thinking about the offense and what the offense is going to do and what the offense is going to look like and how rocky that could be. And it's been all the talk about the defense, but I start looking at the defense versus the Vikings. And the Vikings are first-time head coach, first-time play caller as well. You've got Ed Donatel on their defense, and I don't know. We all have thoughts about Ed Donatel, I assume. But I think I've been looking so much at. I think it's going to be rocky for the Packers offense. It should be rocky for the Vikings offense as well. Like a lot of those same pieces are in place. Obviously, they have Justin Jefferson, but if this defense is even a fraction of what we think it's going to be coming to week one, I mean, they should give the Vikings a very, very hard time. That interior of the offensive line of the Vikings is awful, which is where the Packers' strength currently is. So I think Kirk Cousins is just going to be just swimming. So I think the quick passing game gets going. They had a couple shots. I think we feel a little better about the offense after this first game. I still don't think we're like, oh man, they've got everything figured out. I still think it's a little rocky out the gate. I don't think it's smooth sailing the first half. I think they start to pick up steam a little bit, but ultimately I think that the defense, the interior of the defensive line just gives the Vikings interior of the offensive line too many problems, and the Packers end up winning.
Maggie?
I've been feeling like it's going to be a one-score game, but I think I said on Packs What She Said in Pack a Day, like 24-21 Packers or 24-20, where I think, one of the biggest things here is the red zone defense was bad last year for the Packers, and going up against the Vikings at US Bank is going to be challenging, but I think that's where we'll kind of see the rubber meet the road for this defense, and if they can put everything together. And if you change even a couple of those touchdowns and turn them into field goals, that's going to spell the difference in this game. If the Vikings march down the field and things look easy, it's going to be a problem. But, the Packers lost to the Vikings on a field goal at the last second last year. So Mason Crosby's back. It's his 242nd consecutive game. Let's let Green Bay win it on a last second field goal this year.
That'd be fantastic. I'm going to say 2016 Packers. I think it's going to be a low scoring game. I think both teams get 4 scoring drives. I think the Packers paid off with 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals. I think the Vikings get 1 touchdown and 3 field goals. So that's going to be ultimately the difference in the game, is basically a field goal instead of a touchdown. And I just think that, well, Minnesota gets, acclimated to the new offensive coordinator, and this Packers defense shows what they're capable of. I think they hold the Vikings to 16. And while Green Bay gets used to really, who knows what this offensive line looks like, but no Devontae Adams, probably no Alan Lazard. I think there's going to be a grind on offense. And I think, points are going to be at a premium, but I think Green Bay squeaks out just enough because they've got the MVP. And I think they're going to be able to make a couple more plays than maybe the Vikings will. So I'm going to go 2016. I'm going to take the under, and I'm going to go a low scoring game. All right. Final thoughts, Maggie, Dusty, anything else you wanted to go over today?
I'm just excited to watch football, man. We got Bills Rams. We got to see the Bills offense do some really fun stuff last night. Fun. I've got other stuff going on Sunday that's not fun, and then the Packers game comes up right after the not fun stuff. So I'm excited to get through some not fun things, and then kick back and hopefully watch the Packers just do tremendous things. I'm just so happy that football's back, man. Agreed.
Maggie, any final thoughts?
I think, and I don't know, maybe this is like a homer take that nobody wants to hear, but there's a lot of expectations. And yes, this game week 1 means more than last year because it's a division rival. You want to win the North first and foremost. That's how you get your easiest path to the playoffs. But, if the Packers come out and they don't look like world beaters, I think that that's okay. And I think, that's kind of the big takeaway, especially if they don't have Bakhtiari and they don't have Jenkins and, wide receiver 1 in quotes with Lazard out there. Like there's going to be some really exciting things. Jaire being back is huge. Tunyon being back is huge for the offense. So a lot to look forward to, a lot to be really excited about. But I don't think the sky is going to be falling regardless of the outcome on Sunday, even though I feel good about the Packers. And I think that they'll pull it out.
I'm so glad you said that, even though you stole my final take, because I feel the exact same way. I think there's a real opportunity for Minnesota to win this game. I think with the injuries that Green Bay potentially has, I think Minnesota has a lot of continuity on offense. I think they have one of their better offensive lines. I know Bradbury's an opportunity to take advantage of, especially with Kenny Clark, but I do think they've had one of their better offensive lines. Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen's no walk in the park. Dalvin Cook's no walk in the park. Kirk Cousins with an unscouted looked offense, that Green Bay's not as familiar with. I just think there's an opportunity that this offense for Minnesota could look better, and maybe Green Bay's defense doesn't look quite as good. I think there's an opportunity where Green Bay's offense, sans maybe Bakhtiari and Jenkins, no Alan Lazard, learning to play without Devontae Adams, that could take a little bit of time to get used to. And I don't even want to talk about the special teams. So I think there's a real way that Minnesota wins this game, and it won't matter at all. Green Bay's going to win the division. They're going to be a playoff team. They're going to be really good through the course of this season. And that is what ultimately matters is how they play in January and February. I've been saying it all off season. I don't think we can say it enough, but we know this team can win regular season games. They'll do it again this year. They've won 2 playoff games in the Matt LaFleur era. And that's what will ultimately matter and really define the end of this Aaron Rodgers era and really the beginning of the Matt LaFleur era. So I'm excited to see how this whole regular season comes together, but I'm with you, Maggie. They lose this game, it doesn't mean much to me. I want to see them get better as the course of the season goes along, and I want to see them playing their best football in December and January, not in September, October, November.
And February.
Yes, exactly. No, just January, then, just call it. Guys, thank you so much for doing this. I'm so incredibly appreciative of both of you. You guys are both amazing, amazing people. Maggie, plug your stuff, and where can we follow you?
Yeah, I'm just on Twitter at Maggie Loney. You can find my voice a couple times a week for the Pack a Day podcast. I'm on the Friday show, and Pax What She Said now with the Odyssey Sports Network.
Dusty, plug your stuff, man.
Apparently cars.com is where you find me. Yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, Cheesehead TV once a week, Packer Report a couple times a week. I'll be doing stuff, Pack a Day on Wednesdays, and then trying to do more video live stream stuff during the week, but I have absolutely zero set. I'm going to be doing something this Tuesday I'm really hyped about, where I'm going over the Packers offense versus the Vikings defense. So we'll see how they did. Hey, sweetie, with Sean from Sayed Schemes, who I've been a huge admirer of for forever. And so he reached out and was like, hey, he wrote a piece for I think Daily Norseman, I think. And so he's going to be coming on, and we're going to be talking through some, I'm going to be asking a lot of questions of him, and then he's going to describe things to me in a lot of detail as far as what happened. So I'm really excited to kind of go through all of that stuff on Tuesday. And then, my regular stuff, She Said TV and Packer Report. But that one I'm very excited about because I've been following him for a very long time.
Cannot wait. Guys, go follow Maggie. Go follow Dusty. Go follow Perri. You can follow her at Perri_Goldstein. You can follow me at Andy Herman NFL. You can follow the podcast at Pack a Day Podcast. We're going to be doing happy hour every single Friday. We've got a new Tuesday live show, 7 p.m. Central. Yeah. This coming Tuesday, we'll be breaking down the game with Aaron Nagler and Ben Fennell. Make sure to check that out. Thank you so much all for joining me and us on our very first Pack a Day Podcast happy hour. Could not be more excited about this moving forward. Thank you again, Maggie, Perri, and Dusty. That does it for us today. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.